So for me, what I do to start off with is I just look at the bush and decide, what is my goal? What do I want to achieve? What's the shape and the size that I want? And then the first thing is to look and take out anything old or disease, anything that doesn't look right, any dieback. And, obviously it's sensible to take out the old and the dead. But also what it does, it just stimulates new growth. The more you prune, the more the rows will want to respond with new shoots. And so we're keeping the plant young and juvenile and healthy. So yeah, I'm just taking these leaves off now. They come away really easily because, they're about to fall anyway. It's an extra little job that we didn't used to have to do, but with the milder winters, it's something we're finding we're having to do more often now. But I really find it easier to prune and see the stems and the lines without all of this leaf still on the plant. So you don't need to get every leaf because, a lot of these stems I'll be pruning off later. So that's probably enough for now. So I'm keen now to start pruning some of the older stems out. So I'm looking into the centre of the bush there, and there's a couple of stems that look pretty good ones to remove. See this one here? This is quite old. As you can see, it's dark, it's gone, it's brown, it's an old woody stem. There's these two newer shoots coming from it near the top, but they're not very vigorous. And then there's this one coming from lower down. So for starters, I'm going to prune that there and take out, and I can take that away. So the next stem I'm looking at trying to remove is this old one here. It's the oldest stem in the whole bush really. It's got this stem coming from it which is browning off, not a good sign. So I'll probably go around and cut that down with a saw. Again, there's other strong shoots around it which will replace it, and hopefully by cutting it will encourage new shoots as well. So they're the first two that I'll start with cutting out, and then we'll think about the rest of the bush and how we shape it beyond that. So do use a saw where it's too big for your secateurs. It's no point damaging the rows. So get a little folding saw, and this is the one that we identified earlier. So I'll just cut that out. And then there was also that one here that we cut down earlier that I said I'll cut down to ground level. So that's those old ones removed. Now I just want to shorten all of the other stems. So this is an old rose. When I say old, a rose bred before 1867. We've got gallicas and alba roses, centifolias. This is a damask rose, really ancient rose. And all of these roses are single flowering. And with these old roses, we don't actually prune so heavy like you might with more of a modern rose. So you can see that's how much it's grown this year. But I'm only going to take off about a third to a half of that length. You don't want them getting too tall and leggy, but you don't want to be pruning right hard low down here, because all that will do is stimulate that bud below where you've pruned it to grow into another growth shoot. And what we want is to encourage new shoots from the base, but then flowers from here. So I'm just going to look at all of these shoots and just prune them down, ideally just above a bud, and to a bud that's pointing in the direction of where I want it to grow. So rather than say that bud which is pointing into the bush, so if that bud grows, the shoot will come this way and it will just look a bit awkward. This stem will be coming up in this direction and then it'll change like an elbow and point over there. So ideally I'm looking for an outward facing bud. I can see one there. It's not as advanced as this one, it's just really tiny, but that would be a perfect place and a perfect bud just to cut above that. And I'll just go around the whole bush doing that kind of similar approach. So outward facing bud, just cut above it. Sometimes where, say this stem for example, I could reduce by half. It's a little bit thin, anything that's thinner than really say pencil thickness. So I'm looking to maybe prune harder here, so I could prune to there, so the next side shoot, but this is a little bit thin too, so I'm tempted to go all the way down, because remember, the harder we prune, the more kind of it will stimulate energy into below where you've pruned it, so this shoot might become the dominant shoot. I'm just going to hold fire on that for now, as I just have to think about the shape of the bush as well. But then that might affect the overall balance, so I'm holding fire for now. I can come back to it. So this is interesting to look. You can see here where these two shoots here, the one on my left, this one here, look, it's been pruned this time last year, just above a bud. This was the bud. That's broken and grown into a shoot, and that's a nice clean cut. Compare that with this one, where the bud was here, and that bud's broken into this growth shoot. But this section above the bud, because in winter pruning it was pruned off here, has just died back down to where it should have been pruned. There, look. So there we go. If we cut it nice and flush to that bud, then you've got no chance of that tip dying back, and sometimes it just dies back to where it should have been pruned, but quite often what happens is it tracks back further down the stem, and the whole stem needs to be pruned out because it dies off. Something so nice about doing this, you just can't help but think about all the amazing blooms and fragrance you're going to get in the summer. I'm just working my way around, thinking about the shape, cutting to an outward bud, taking away any bits of dieback, and then there'll come a point when you can just pause and just stand back and look at the shape, look at the cuts. Last one to do is probably this one here, this long growth right from the base. Again, I'm not after cutting it too hard. If it was more of a modern rose, maybe one of the David Austin English roses, I would be thinking about pruning that shoot and all of these shoots just a little bit harder, just because of their growth habit, whereas these old ones don't need that. And then that shoot I was pausing with, I think I will cut it to there. So I said that these are a bit weak. I want to prune it there and stimulate this shoot to grow into a strong shoot.